What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and let's talk about it. First of all, I want to say thank you. You guys have been really staying on top of it. You guys have really been like 100%, like in my side during this whole apocalypse thing that's been going on my channel. I appreciate all the love and support. People finding the information, even though it's been submerged and not being put up on in the proper place it belongs. I want to also say thank you to the new subscribers that came through. You guys are showing love and support, and everybody who's joined the Patreon, the Carcino for Life Patreon, has learned some explosive things over there this past month and this month here. So that's not all of it. We still here with a lot more to go. Now, Phil Jackson, the man they call the luckiest coach in the NBA. It's like this guy walks into a great situation all the time. Like this guy was not meant to be a head coach of the NBA. He was a hippie who basically wandered in and stole a job, and the way it all happened was weird, but he was game and he was ready to go. Now, Phil was unique, you know, very studious human being, studied plays, studied the game. And it's like asking which one of your children you like the best. If you had to ask and put Phil on the wall to ask him, and don't forget to hit the like button too while you're here. Yeah, that does help. So hitting the like button does count. Now, Phil Jackson is what you call one of the greatest minds of the game. His mind is it stinks and expands further than what the average player thinks. Why everybody like me and you, we all see the comparisons of Jordan and Kobe. He notices things that make them entirely different. Like he's like they're two different type of players altogether, and they have some similarities of the things they do on the court. But Michael and Kobe, if you look closer, they're not alike. And the thing is that they just both have a killer instinct to win. And that's one thing that you need to have in this league is that instinct to win. Gotta have it and embrace it. Where with Phil and Kobe, it was always a situation where people didn't know what would happen. You just didn't know. With Michael, he was assured that he was in control. He could run the floor better than anybody. Like control the way the style was going to be played, the tempo, everything. He could dictate it. Now, to make it clearer, Phil broke down a lot of intangibles because a lot of people didn't see. They saw all the highlights. They didn't see the lowlights because Kobe wouldn't show you the lowlights with him and Phil. Like, there's a lot of times they weren't speaking to each other at all. They had to have a go in between. Uh, it was just a really bad time. They had some very, turmoil type of years. Well, when Phil became head coach of the Chicago Bulls, he was the assistant behind Doug. So when he got Michael Jordan to be able to coach him, they lost the first year, but after that, they were off to the races. I mean, off to the races. They won 6 championships in like what 8 years, and then the team of this band right along with Phil. Then he walks into the Lakers team in the very first year. They win 3 in a row, back to back to back. It's like is somebody crazy? And he comes in and wins 2 more. So Phil, his 11 rings and all the stuff he's won and accomplishments. Him picking between the two sons that he loved the best. Loved both of them to die hard death. And without a doubt, it would be Michael, right? You would be wrong. His favorite son was Kobe Bryant. And I'm going to tell you why. Michael Jordan, when he came in there, Michael was a married man, older, more mature, and had been in the league for about 4 to 5 years before, Phil took over as head coach. He was going in like year 6 or 7, with Phil, so and he was more mature. He's basically married now. He's got a new living situation, got a kid on the way, family man, but much more mature as far as dealing with everything. He's got the scrutiny of the whole world on his back. He's clearly the number one player, in basketball. And the world is caught up to it and all the fame and the hype and everything's about Jordan. And this was all in about time 1990 gets here and Phil's the coach. You're like, what's going on with the Bulls? What's going on with the team? What's happening here? And Michael accepted to transition, realizing this is a business and such and such. Whereas with Kobe, when Phil came to the team, I mean, the team basically singled Kobe out as the singular problem of the entire team. So Phil said, okay, well, let me see what I got here. He said, okay, everybody come up, speak freely. If you got something to say about last year, this year. Shaq came up and said, well, we're never going to win a championship because of him right there, and pointed right at Kobe Bryant. Singled him out. And Phil had never been in a situation where another teammate had done that to another teammate. You see, Jordan never challenged Michael for, team supremacy. He knew it's just Michael's team. I'm just going to be the sidekick. Well, Shaq wasn't one to, yield that. It was, I'm number one. I'm first option, period. And that's how he played. The game was get the ball to Shaq. Yeah. So early in Kobe's years, his game had to be altered. Now Kobe had a bit of immaturity in it, where he didn't want to wait till somebody come out and bring him the ball and things of that nature. Kobe, his whole thing was entirely different. Kobe's whole thing was, look, I gotta make it happen. This plays ain't working. I gotta make things happen. He was headstrong and very much of a recluse, where Jordan socialized with his teammates. He went out, patted him on the back, told him good job, and all that's not Kobe. Kobe would practice with you and only talk to you maybe through practice. After that's over, there's no relationship with Kobe and nothing. He was much more of a loner. Then over the years, once he got older, he started to, include other people into his world and actually have conversations with him. It was his circle was so small, and even though people loved him, they looked up to him. He just really kept people at a distance because that's just the way he felt like he needed to be to have that tunnel vision. And he don't need somebody who might be his competition looking at his plays. Now, whew, now the fact that Kobe didn't have a what you would say college career, collegiate career coming into the NBA at 17, it put him in a situation where he had to fend for himself. Like I'm not going to get bullied by nobody here. I'm not going to be, bringing drinks to the veterans and none of that. I'm not. I ain't with that. Kobe was standoffish and like this is the task, and I know they're gonna try to, show me that they the man and all that. So he wanted to let everybody know who he was. Like you're gonna remember this guy here, number 8. So he would do something wild, get some attention or something, like on a basketball court or something. But he wanted, you know, there was no fear from nobody in the NBA. They didn't fear Kobe Bryant. So his intimidation and will and hard work was pushing, but success was going to have to wait down the road. Then he did it in the playoffs twice. And what people don't realize is that fire that's in both of them, Michael identifies with Kobe because, he identified with this is somebody that was like me. The more he got to know him, the more he knew, like, this kid is like me. He's a sponge for knowledge and he's looking to get better. He didn't come in the game with all the tools. Michael came in was just a freak of nature. But Michael was developed 21, 22 years of age. Kobe was 17. By the time Kobe was 22, he was doing what Michael was doing in the league. And by the time he was 5, 6 years in, he was unstoppable. There was a time when Allen Iverson came in the game and the game wasn't ready for Allen Iverson. Kobe had to adjust to the game, and get acclimated because he was so young coming into the league. And, having the game move so fast. Plus, he wasn't the number one. He wasn't even starting. He wasn't the star pupil at the time. So it was a learning curve. Me and Shaq got there at the same time. So, they had to learn together. And acquiring Phil was the key. He knew Michael didn't need as much work. Scotty was never going to challenge Michael Jordan for, question his leadership. Scotty would just, even if he didn't like what Michael was saying, he followed. He was not going to disobey and go against the franchise. Now, on the other hand, you got Kobe. Kobe's his favorite student or favorite son, you would call, because this is where the teaching had to come in. This is where you had to deal with someone who probably wasn't as mature or handling things as well as he did, and he was the coach when things were falling apart. And Kobe, had off the court issues and something that was greater than what Michael had to deal with. Michael had gambling issues. This was a full fledged out assault case, that could have landed him in jail somewhere. His life was on the line. But these things come around full circle because now Phil, for the first time, had to really go into his bag because he didn't like Kobe. After the first three championships and he left the Lakers, he wasn't very fond. He looked at Kobe Bryant as an uncoachable player. He thought this guy's never going to be coached. He's just going to want to do what he wants to do. And I thought after all these years, it would have took in. But Kobe became more of I'm going to be in my shell and I don't want anyone in my way. It's just me. I'm the only person I can trust. And when he had that mentality, he basically shut everybody off because he knew the scrutiny he was under through the media and everyone else. So he was villainized. And his image was ruined. So trying to repair that was going to take time for people to get to know him. But Kobe didn't want to wait and didn't want to waste any time. So his on the court performance, he wanted to showcase what he could do offensively on the basketball court. And when Shaq was out for all those games with an injury, Kobe was able to showcase and the offense changed. And it went through Kobe. And when Shaq came back and went through Shaq, and that led to the whole Shaq and Kobe, just fall out. And Phil had to guide Kobe through that, where there never was a big enough rift with Mike and Scotty. Scotty would never challenge Michael for any type of leadership of the team. Michael came back, it was Michael's team. There was no fight from Scotty at all. That was it. Mike's team. Why would you question it? But Kobe is in a power struggle where he's ready to take over the team. It's ready to be Kobe's team. And once the ownership and once the fans started to notice that this is Kobe's team now, we need to let Kobe go. Let him be Kobe Bryant. You started to see a change, a different transition. Phil wrote a book that was totally against Kobe and basically against the Lakers because he kind of felt like he was pushed out, being the Lakers, head coach. And he was a little bitter at Kobe. He never thought he would come back to the Lakers. So him and Kobe had a sit down conversation and they discussed his book. And what shocked Phil more than anything is that he had to even humble himself. He didn't even realize that he had his words and his teachings, everything. Kobe knew. Kobe Bryant knew everything Phil has said since the first day he's been there. And it shocked Phil because he never thought Kobe was listening. He thought he was uncoachable. He thought Kobe was using the fundamentals that Phil uses on the players. He was reaching out, bonding, trying to bond with players and trying to teach them to learn by example. Because he was going to work hard. You didn't have to worry about Kobe working hard. He was going to push himself. But it's no good if the other players are not going to follow him. So he reached out for help. He reached out and called Steve Nash. He reached out and called Dwayne Wade. He reached out and called other players around the league who wasn't even on his team. Because if there was an area in the game he was weak at, he wanted to get stronger at. He wanted to know. So Kobe Bryant became one of his favorite sons because this is where the most of his work had to go into. Well, Michael was more like a old college buddy of his, like a brother almost. Kobe was more like a son. So if you had to say which one was his favorite son, it definitely would be Kobe. Because they had to learn how to trust each other. And when him and Kobe had a one-on-one conversation, the only parts that were really revealed was the fact that they had a real conversation. That was more about life and it was philosophy. And he was so blown away by the growth of Kobe. Kobe wasn't the 17, 19-year-old kid he met before, or even the one he met when he left the Lakers, because he was so angry at that time. And he told him, he said, Phil, I used your techniques. I used everything because I was so angry. I was bitter. And he said, I felt like I cost us the championship because I was so mad. I was so bitter all the time. I felt like I cost everybody. So I wanted to make that up. I wanted to get some get back. I can't let my career go out with me losing like we did to the Pistons. I can't let my finals history go out like that. There's more in us. There's more in me. We can build a team and we can go back to the championship and make it right. So let's make it right. That was how he wanted to go out. He wanted to make it right. And you can't help but to applaud somebody who didn't have to do it anymore. Could have just got his checks and that was the end of it, but he wanted to play the right way. He was a gambler on defense. Michael wasn't a real gambler on defense. Michael was going to stay home. He was going to play physical and solid because he was stronger than Kobe, but he was definitely more more foundation based, where Kobe used a lot of athleticism and everything else to get steals, and sometimes it worked. It's sometimes it didn't. He took risks out there on the defensive end to make something happen. Kobe sometimes let the game come to him, and then sometimes he just goes out and takes the game. And if it don't, he'll force it to happen. He just plays with so much passion and fire. That's what I miss. I missed that part that he brought to the game. And even though he's gone and we'll miss him forever, but he left us a legacy to enjoy forever. You can go back and watch many Laker games and see Kobe shining. That's greatness. Jordan's greatness. I will be addressing Isaiah Thomas comments on the Patreon. That's going down tomorrow. There's a lot of stuff kicking on the Patreon right now. We got the truth behind Whitney Houston's death. We have, oh man, what do we got? The Britney Spears, why she didn't win the lawsuit, to stop the conservatorship rather. We got some of everything in there, man. You learn business tips, business ideas. We got live chats, live breakdowns on things that you didn't know anything about. Like I said, you learn what happened with a lot of different players. We're gonna go in a lot of deep rooted things. We're gonna go into JFK. Yeah, it's a lot going on, man. So pay attention, stay sharp, stay alert. It's your boy Carcino for life. Saying thank you. Thank you, sincerely yours, for your Cash App donation. I do appreciate that, man. You always look out. And I appreciate that. And appreciate all the rest of you too who donate to the Cash App. Much love, and it's much appreciated. For the new people, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm out.